The first step in creating a great resume is getting the structure right. So there's no point in having wonderful achievements listed if you haven't got the basic outline of a resume correct. And again, this is a mistake that a lot of candidates make is that they might actually have some good content there. They might actually have some phrases and some achievements that are really going to sell themselves. But when they construct their resume, they get the layout all over the place. So what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to go through how to design, your basic resume layout, and do so in a way that also allows you to tweak it for each job that you're applying for. So let's get this basic resume structure right. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to share one of the templates that will be available for you to download from your candidate coaching platform. We've made 3 or 4 templates available, but I don't mind which template you use and how it looks as long as it's got the right structure. So you don't necessarily need to use one of our templates. You can go to a website called canva.com, which I'll show later on, and they have hundreds of really well-designed templates. The one that I'm going to share with you now, it's quite a basic resume template. You'll see we've we've sectioned it up. We've got a section down the left and a section across the top. Up the top here, we have the introduction. Now, you might choose to call this summary. There's lots of different names that you can give here, but it's a mini introduction to yourself. It's 3 or 4 paragraphs long. It's no longer than that. It's in some ways a bit like having an elevator pitch. You are kind of selling yourself here. You're really trying to promote and bring in 1, 2, or 3 sentences exactly what you're going to bring to the role, what's great about you. So we need to also look, we've got our education, we've then got our employment history. But getting back to the introduction, I really want you to think here about the role that you're applying for. I'd like you to tailor it for each individual vacancy that you're applying to. Your introduction should in some ways reflect what the job advertisement is looking for. So I don't want you to be using the same introduction for every particular role. You need to be stating here quite clearly who you are, what you're looking for, and I guess, really building that case as to why you are relevant for the job. If you had just finished your study and you were looking for work as an accountant, you would pop up here. I'm a recently graduated accounting student seeking my first opportunity to put my learnings into practice. So you can actually be quite blunt here. You can almost be a little bit vulnerable if you like. And I really want you to make sure that you're tailoring your introduction to speak specifically to the advertisement that you're applying for. So again, you need to be tailoring it for each role. The second thing we've got down the page now is education. Different countries lay out resumes in different ways. In some countries, education is put at the bottom of the resume, but I like to bring it back to the fact that we know that your resume is only going to be looked at on average for 7 seconds. If you put your resume, your degree, if you spent 3 or 4 years at university and you put your degree on page 2 or page 3, the recruiter might not even look at it and not even see it and might not know about it. So we need to get this onto page 1. Particularly, the more relevant it is to the role that you're applying for, the more likely it is that we need to get it to page 1. So I like to put it up here. Education, for example, here I've got Bachelor of Business Marketing. If you had honours or if you had distinctions for any subjects, you might list them here too. We then move to employment history. For me, employment history is the most important component of your resume. Your last role is often the thing that is looked at first on your resume. That is where a recruiter's eye will normally first go. And their eye goes there to begin with for several reasons. The easiest way for me to get a sense of who you are and your suitability for the job is to understand what your last position was. That gives me the clearest indication straight away on who you are and what your likelihood of being successful with this role is. We do reverse chronological order. So your most recent role needs to be first. Again, if you are coming into Australia from another country, some other countries like to change that up and have oldest role listed first. In some places, I've seen people list what they would feel is their most relevant role first. In Australia, we list the most recent role first. So whatever you have been doing most recently in terms of employment needs to be listed on the top with the other jobs that you've had since then following underneath. So what you'll see here, we have employment history as the title, we have the role, customer service officer, we have the name of the company, Smart Energy. On the right over here, we have the date. For this example, I've used month and year. Certainly if your role's been 2 or 3 years old, I'd include the month. If it's been more than 5 years, though, you would just have, say, 2018 to 2023. That would be fine. It's optional as to whether or not you include a statement on who the organization is. It kind of depends a little bit on how well you feel this organization is known. If everybody knows this organization, then you might not need to put a description here. But if it's a smaller organization or it's not well known, putting a little description here can really help the person reading your resume to get an understanding of what the company does, and it just helps to set the scene for them. So here I've done that, explain that the company is a leading utility retailer specializing in renewable energy. And that just helps, again, the reader of your resume to quickly understand the scope of your organization. This next part here, we have listed main duties and responsibilities. So in the duties of your role, it is likely the average role has well over 60 duties. On the average job description has well over 24. On your resume, though, you can't list that many. And this is why we need to tailor our resume for each role that we apply for. So I need you to pick 5 or 6, maybe absolute maximum of 8, but I like it to be around that 5 or 6 number. You need to pick 5 or 6 responsibilities that are going to really be very, very relevant for the role that you're applying for, because we can't list everything here. We need to make sure that the 5 or 6 things that are on our resume really relate to the advertisement. So what are they asking in the advertisement that you have experience in doing that you can list here? There's really no point in listing something here if it's not relevant to the job. And so that might mean that you are leaving off some of your main duties or responsibilities for your previous role, but that's okay, because we're going to tailor it for each application based on what they're looking for in our advertisement. We really need to make sure that our resume is matching that one advertisement that we are applying for with this particular resume. This is extremely important, particularly with your most recent role, is to list, and I'm going to call it key achievements. The reason I say key achievements is it makes it sound like you've had a lot of achievements, but you may also have had a lot of achievements and you can't list everything here. So we don't list as many achievements as we do duties or responsibilities, but we need to list here exactly what it is that we've done. So here we've put key achievement. The first one was achieved 95% customer satisfaction score for the last 18 months. So that is a great achievement. Number 2 was gained my call resolution badge within 3 months against a target of 6 months, so on and so forth. Listing achievements on your resume is absolutely vital. The reason being is it can be the one thing that really separates you from other candidates. Now, it's likely that over the course of the next week, I will look at 100 resumes from people who have worked in customer service and hospitality in fast food. I know what they have been doing in their job. So even though many of them will describe to me what their job was, I actually know it. And you, even if you've never worked in fast food, can imagine what the duties would be. So what separates the candidates and what I really want to hear is not what you did, but how well did you do it? So that is why we need to list achievements. If you are struggling to come up with some achievements to list here, consider it in this way. What things are you doing in your role now that you weren't doing when you started the role? What extra responsibilities have you been given? For example, have you been asked to assist training and onboarding new employees? You could list that as an achievement. Have you been given responsibility to cash up the till at the end of the day? That could be listed as an achievement. Have you been given the keys to the store? Have you won any awards at all? Have you had any customer recommendations? In many ways, I don't kind of care what you listed here, but I want to see achievements, however small they are, because it also gives me an indication that you're proud of your work. You are proud of what you achieved in your role there. So make sure at a minimum, you get 3 achievements listed here. So I want to zoom out a little bit. So we've got down to the end of the first role, and I want to come back up here to the top left-hand side. So again, as I said, this is just one particular resume layout. As you'll see up the top here on the left, I've got a space where you can put your name. You put your name in capital letters, and then we've got some contact details. Address is an interesting one. It's not necessary, it's not relevant really to list your address. So don't feel like you need to list your address on every role that you're applying for. What I'd really encourage you to do if you're applying for a job in Australia and you've never worked in Australia before, and if you live in Australia now, certainly list your address. You don't want the person reading your resume to think, oh, they are actually living overseas. Phone number is important and email is important because we need to contact you. And I would put a hyperlink to your LinkedIn profile. Hopefully you've got a good LinkedIn profile. You've watched our LinkedIn coaching video. Put a link to your LinkedIn profile there as well. I like to list skills and attributes down the left-hand side here. Some people like to put this, they don't use this left-hand column here. I like it because it separates the information out from the left and the right, and it's easy to use. But list some skills and attributes here. List some things that you've done in the role that you've done in your career that aren't necessarily just specific to one job. So, the first one is strong communication skills and excellent attention to detail. There's some great skills and attributes that the person has. And you can list these down here. Another great one to put in this column is software skills. So what software programs have you used? Some will be relevant to the role you're applying for. Some might not necessarily be. And then also, I actually like to see the details of referees listed on the resume. You might not have permission, or your potential referees at this stage may not know that you're looking for work. However, if they do, I would encourage you to list their details here, because what it shows me as a recruiter is that there's some confidence there. You are confident that you're going to get a good reference from that person. Otherwise, it's pretty unlikely that you'd be listing their details, on the resume here. You might feel that you've got some other things that you could add to this column too. You are certainly welcome to add some other headings down the left-hand side. But that is our basic resume layout. These are the sections. If we apply this to the previous article that we read, we've got bold headings, we've got bulleted dot points. I think we've got enough white space on the page there. It's not overly cluttered. We don't have long paragraphs. It's fairly straightforward. And it's fairly simple to read. Now, this by no means is not the only way to lay out your resume, and from your candidate coaching platform, you'll find a number of different templates. They all have the same sections though, just laid out slightly differently. So good luck, go and download one of those templates, and let's get started on your resume and watch the next video.
So it's industry dependent. I think if you're going into a design industry or something more on the artistic side, I think showing your artistic flair within your resume is really important. The same can be said for if it's, for instance, a technical role. If you have a set list of technical skills, I think those things really stand out. I think the formatting as well, some resumes are formatted really, really well, and they are attractive to the eye, I guess you could say. I think those resumes tend to go a lot further than just a big block of text.
There's lots of different avenues with creating a resume. So you can go to Word, you can get Word templates, and you can have a fairly basic template as stock standard. But it's also very easy to stand out. So you can go to software like Canva, for example. There's hundreds of resume templates on Canva, and you can have a professional graphic designed resume, which you probably can do yourself for investment about an hour of understanding how to do it. So you can really upgrade the actual look and feel and aesthetics of a resume really very easily and stand out from 95% of the other job seekers.
it's really the first page that people need to see enough to be able to turn the page. So if there isn't enough information on the first page for the hirer, the recruiter to see what they're looking for, they may not turn to the next page or scroll down the screen. So I think it's really important that they get the pertinent information as far as they can on the front cover, on the first page.